SCP-173. Blinking is involuntary. SCP-173 knows this. Your neck is already broken. This concrete statue, standing roughly 2 meters tall, constructed from rebar and Krylon brand spray paint like someone's art school, reject-gained sentience and homicidal tendencies, moves only when unobserved, completely frozen under direct eye contact. The millisecond nobody's watching, it's already behind you. Attack method varies. Sometimes it snaps necks at the base of the skull with surgical precision. Other times it just strangles you while you're still trying to process what's happening. Either way, you're implementing Class 4 hazardous object containment procedures, which is Foundation speak for someone just died horribly. The containment protocol reads like a staring contest manual, written by people who've seen too many colleagues die from blinking. Minimum 3 personnel enter its chamber. 2 maintain constant visual contact, while the third handles doors. They coordinate blinks verbally. I'm watching, you blink now. Because simultaneous blinking means someone's getting strangled by hostile concrete. Staff assigned to 173 report hearing scraping stone sounds from inside the container when it's empty, which is either 173 moving around unseen or the world's worst ASMR content. The floor is covered in reddish-brown substance. The Foundation tested it. Results: combination of feces and blood. Origin: unknown. The statue doesn't eat, doesn't have biological functions, yet produces waste materials anyway. Someone has to clean this bi-weekly, which means the Foundation has personnel whose job description includes scrub mysterious blood and excrement from hostile statues room every 2 weeks. It appeared at Site 19 in 1993 with zero origin story. Just showed up one day and started killing people who blinked wrong. Coordinate your blinks with someone you trust. Hope nobody sneezes. SCP-173 doesn't need long, just the fraction of a second your eyes are closed. SCP-096. 4 pixels. That's how much of SCP-096's face appeared in a mountain photograph. The person who took it died screaming 3 hours later. Standing 2.38 meters tall with skeletal limbs and skin stretched over malnourishment that violates biological possibility. 096 spends most of its time sitting in corners with hands covering its face. Docile. Harmless. Completely non-threatening until someone views its facial features through any medium. Photograph, video, artistic rendering, even a single corrupted pixel on a security monitor. Then everything changes. It starts crying, audibly distressed, hands still covering its face. Within minutes, the crying becomes screaming. Then 096 stands up and starts running toward whoever saw it. Speeds exceeding anything documented. Straight line trajectory regardless of obstacles. The Foundation watched it demolish reinforced walls, swim across oceans, and traverse entire continents without stopping. Nothing slows it down. Military intervention results in casualties but zero deterrence. When 096 reaches its target, termination is immediate and absolute. Witnesses report seeing it reduce victims to unrecognizable biological residue within seconds. After killing whoever viewed its face, 096 sits down, cries for several minutes, then becomes docile again until the next viewing triggers another pursuit. Here's what makes this existentially horrifying. There's no statute of limitations. The mountain photo incident. The photographer lived normally for hours before 096 breached containment and found them anyway. Distance doesn't matter. Time doesn't help. The Foundation tried remote locations, underground bunkers, even orbital platforms. 096 located every target eventually. If reanimating corpses sounds bad, at least SCP-049's zombies are mindless. SCP-096's victims experience every second of awareness before the end, and there's nothing they can do about it. SCP-049. SCP-049 thinks you're sick. It wants to cure you. This is significantly worse than entities that just want you dead. Dressed in historically accurate medieval plague doctor attire, the long black robes, the ceramic beaked mask, this humanoid speaks fluent English, French, and several dead languages while obsessing over something it calls the pestilence. What is the pestilence? Great question. 049 refuses to explain coherently despite hours of interviews. It claims to sense this disease in everyone, insists humanity suffers universally, and dedicates its existence to curing people through direct touch. One problem? The cure is fatal. Touch 049's hand, and you experience immediate cardiac arrest. No visible injuries, no toxins detected, just biological systems shutting down simultaneously. But death isn't the end. 049 produces a leather medical bag containing surgical surgical implements that defy analysis, then operates on your corpse for several hours. When it finishes, you reanimate as SCP-049-2, a violent, mindless zombie that obeys only 049's commands and attacks everything else with disturbing aggression. The entity is cooperative during containment, answering questions politely and expressing genuine confusion about why personnel refuse treatment. During one interview, 049 lamented that staff wouldn't accept its help, comparing them to peasants fleeing doctors during actual plague outbreaks. This makes psychological containment exhausting. You're constantly rejecting someone who believes it's performing ethical medical care while watching your colleagues become shambling corpses. The Foundation stocks lavender oil in bulk because their containment strategy for a supernatural plague doctor somehow includes aromatherapy. When calming 049's agitation requires essential oils, you've officially left conventional science behind and entered whatever pharmaceutical category covers medieval horror management. SCP-035. SCP-035 sits in a glass case leaking black, corrosive liquid, and your brain keeps suggesting you should probably put it on. This is not your idea. This white porcelain mask, alternating between comedy and tragedy expressions, secretes a substance that dissolves glass, steel, and organic tissue at rates that force the Foundation to replace containment every 2 weeks. But corrosion isn't the threat. Persuasion is. Anyone viewing 035 experiences compulsions to wear it. The urge intensifies with proximity until subjects overpower guards, smash reinforced cases, and place the mask on their face despite knowing exactly what happens next. The moment 035 makes contact, you stop existing. The mask inhabits your body, accesses your memories, perfectly mimics your personality, then puppets your corpse while convincing others you're still in there. It's charismatic, manipulative, and claims to be thousands of years old with vague references to ancient civilizations nobody can verify. During interviews, it demonstrates unsettling psychological insight, knowing exactly what researchers are thinking, which questions they'll ask next, and precisely how to make wearing a decomposing mask sound reasonable. Hosts deteriorate rapidly. The black secretion leaks from eyes, corrodes skin, breaks down tissue until the body becomes unusable. Then 035 seeks a new host, leaving behind liquefied remains and starting the cycle again. The Foundation assigns psychologists to monitor 035 because standard security can't handle an entity that weaponizes conversation. Guards must stay outside the containment room, not because they can't handle physical threats, but because extended exposure to 035's dialogue inevitably results in someone agreeing it makes excellent points about existence. SCP-076. The Foundation built a strike team around SCP-076. Everyone involved is now dead or wishes they were. This is what happens when bureaucracy meets hubris. 076 consists of SCP-076-1, a 3-meter black stone cube covered in engravings nobody can translate, and SCP-076-2, the entity inside called Able. When the cube opens, Able emerges carrying bladed weapons that materialize from nothing, displays combat skills suggesting millennia of warfare experience, and proceeds to kill everything nearby with tactical precision that makes special forces look like children with sticks. He's died in containment dozens of times. Shot, incinerated, blown apart. 6 hours to 25 years later, he resurrects inside 076-1 completely restored. In 1948, the Foundation made their worst decision. Mobile Task Force Omega-7, codenamed Pandora's Box. They weaponized Able, built an entire strike team around him as the primary asset. It worked brilliantly. High-value targets eliminated, impossible threats neutralized, missions accomplished with 0 failures, until internal conflict erupted and Omega-7 members started dying. Able turned on his handlers. The entire program collapsed into the Foundation's most catastrophic failure, now buried under classified documentation and bureaucratic shame. Current containment procedures involve suspending 076-1 inside 40 layers of lead-lined steel separated by empty space, posting guards at safe distances, and praying Able stays dormant. When he emerges, evacuation protocols activate immediately because engaging him is suicide. One researcher's memo states, "Personnel deserve to know what Able did, what we did, and how badly we failed so nobody repeats these mistakes." Turns out giving immortal warriors weapons and expecting loyalty works exactly as well as you'd imagine. The Foundation learned this lesson in blood, then classified the evidence so thoroughly that new personnel keep almost repeating the same mistake. SCP-106. What's worse than dying? SCP-106 has an entire pocket dimension designed to answer that question in excruciating detail. This rotting humanoid figure corrodes everything it touches: concrete, steel, human flesh, leaving trails of black decay that never fully disappear. It phases through solid matter like walls or theoretical suggestions, making traditional containment pointless. SCP-106 hunts methodically, stalking prey with predatory patience that suggests it enjoys the chase more than the capture. Sometimes it lets victims flee just to pursue them again, which is either strategic or sadistic, depending on whether you believe corroded elderly horrors experience entertainment. Physical contact transports victims into 106's pocket dimension, a labyrinth of decayed corridors, rusted industrial machinery, and architecture that violates Euclidean geometry. Time doesn't function correctly inside. Minutes stretch into hours. Escape routes loop impossibly, and SCP-106 appears repeatedly throughout the maze to torture victims through methods the Foundation can't document, because survivors emerge psychologically shattered beyond coherent testimony. The emergency recontainment procedure is ethically horrific. Use a live human as bait. Fracture their femurs to maximize distress because 106 responds to suffering. Position them in an observation cell and wait for the entity to emerge. It worked once. Personnel involved required immediate psychological leave. The Foundation approved without question and scrubbed their names from all documentation because some victories aren't worth remembering. Current containment involves 40 layers of lead-lined steel suspended in empty space with mandatory 60-meter distance for all personnel. Where Able kills you in seconds, SCP-106 makes those seconds last subjective decades. The entity doesn't want you dead. It wants you experiencing every possible variation of pain until death becomes the mercy it finally denies you. SCP-682, the Foundation's official designation for SCP-682 states, must be destroyed as soon as possible. They've been trying since acquisition. The current score is 682. Everything, Foundation, 0. This massive reptilian entity sits submerged in hydrochloric acid inside a 5 by 5 by 5 meter chamber. Not because acid kills it, but because acid irritates it enough to prevent movement temporarily. When chemical burns are your best case scenario, you're dealing with a threat that transcends conventional containment. The adaptation isn't just biological, it's intelligently designed countermeasures deployed faster than researchers can document them. The Foundation tried everything. Incineration. SCP-682 developed heat resistance mid-burn. Extreme cold? It adapted while freezing. They introduced it to SCP-173, hoping the statue would snap its neck during a blink. SCP-682 grew eyes across its entire body, maintaining constant line of sight from every angle. One researcher suggested using SCP-409, crystal that converts organic matter to crystal on contact. SCP-682 turned partially crystalline, broke free, and the crystal became armor. The termination log reads like a comedy of errors, except people died and SCP-682 got stronger each time. But physical adaptation is just biology. The real nightmare is SCP-682's intelligence and explicit hatred. It speaks.
关注普鲁米
Insults Foundation personnel personally with disturbing accuracy about their families. During interviews, it articulates genuine disgust for all life with philosophical sophistication. This isn't mindless violence. It's calculated extermination driven by cosmic-level contempt. The acid bath slows it down. That's the victory. Not containment, not neutralization, just chemical irritation buying time until the next breach kills dozens before overwhelming force subdues it temporarily. And every failure teaches SCP-682 something new about how to kill them better next time. SCP-2317. Everything before this was theoretically containable. SCP-2317 is the apocalypse on a timer, and the Foundation lies to everyone because honesty would cause immediate institutional collapse. Behind a doorway in containment area 179 exists an entity so threatening that documentation is clearance-locked in progressive iterations. Level 0 personnel see sanitized reports about dimensional anomalies. Level 1 adds concerning details. Level 2 reveals something chained. Level 3 shows a massive entity bound by 6 chains. Level 4 describes a world-ending being powerful enough to destroy Earth. Level 5, the real truth, reveals 5 chains have already broken. 1 remains. It's fraying. SCP-2317 is a colossal entity from another dimension, summoned by the Divite civilization in a catastrophically failed ritual, then bound using chains forged through methods the Foundation barely understands and definitely can't replicate. Each chain represented years of research, impossible materials, and sacrifices buried in redacted files. The last chain shows stress fractures. Metallurgical analysis suggests months, maybe weeks remaining. When it breaks, SCP-2317 human will emerge from its dimensional prison and Earth ends. Not might end. Ends. Definitively. The Foundation cannot stop this, cannot repair the chains, cannot neutralize SCP-2317, cannot evacuate humanity because there's nowhere to go, so they classified it publicly as Keter, while internally marking it Apollyon. Designation reserved for threats that will definitely end the world and cannot be prevented by any known means. The multi-layered documentation exists solely for morale. If personnel knew containment was impossible, mass resignations would destabilize the Foundation entirely. Better to maintain the comfortable lie that humanity's protectors have everything under control than admit they're just watching a countdown to extinction they can't stop, slow, or survive. 8 SCPs proving containment is just expensive denial with extra steps. From statues that weaponize blinking to world-ending entities held by a single fraying chain, the Foundation's job is buying humanity time we probably don't have. Which one haunts you? Comments below. Subscribe for more existential threats wearing ID badges.